Poke the person sitting next to you. When someone pokes you, you feel their finger pushing into your skin. But why do you feel that? By the end of this video, you will understand what causes you to feel things that act upon you and to notice changes in your surroundings. Our nervous system allows us to feel and recognize changes in the environment around us. The nervous system is a network of nerve cells and fibers that transmit nerve impulses between parts of the body. Our nervous system is divided into two sections: the peripheral nervous system, or PNS, and the central nervous system, or CNS. The CNS consists of your brain and spinal cord, while the PNS consists of the cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Signals travel in two ways, either towards the brain or away from the brain. When they are moving towards the brain, they are known as afferent signals, and when they are moving away from the brain, they are known as efferent signals.
Your brain is made up of gray and white matter. Gray matter is controlled by dendrites in nerve cell bodies. Gray matter makes up roughly 40% of the brain and uses most of the oxygen. White matter is made up of axons and is found between the brainstem and cerebellum. About 60% of the brain is made up of white matter. The white matter connects different parts of gray matter and allows communication. On top of this, white matter controls body temperature, blood pressure, and heart rate. There are 4 different neuroglia cells in the CNS. Ependymal cells form the epithelial lining of brain cavities and central canal of the spinal cord. Ependymal cells have cilia or little hairs on them that help guide the movement of cerebrospinal fluid, also known as CSF. This is crucial because the CSF brings nutrients to neurons. Of the glial cells in the central nervous system, astrocytes are the most abundant. They are the primary support cells of the brain and spinal cord. Astrocytes store energy for neurons as well as break down dangerous chemicals and proteins. Astrocytes are also important because they help to heal injuries to the CNS. Microglia are the smallest neuroglia cells. By way of phagocytosis, microglia remove debris of dead neurons. They also release cytotoxins to kill things such as bacteria or foreign cells. For these reasons, microglia are often referred to as the immune cells of the brain. Oligodendrocytes create myelin sheaths around axons. Myelin is crucial to survival because it allows signals to remain in the axon. A breakdown or lack of myelin can lead to life-threatening diseases such as ALD. In such diseases, people forget basic life functions such as walking, talking, and eating. Nodes of Ranvier are gaps in myelin sheaths. While nodes of Ranvier are important for the traveling of action potentials, if they become too large, they can cause many problems. At rest, the inside of a cell has a negative charge. This is known as resting membrane potential. Active transport exchanges sodium and potassium in a 3:2 ratio. For every 3 sodium that enter the cell, there are 2 potassium. A stimulus depolarizes the membrane, causing sodium channels to open. The depolarization allows sodium to flow into the membrane. This launches an action potential. Potassium ions will then rush out of the neuron in order to repolarize itself. Sodium enters as potassium exits, causing the axon to become positive. Hyperpolarization occurs when the cell repolarizes past its resting membrane potential and has to become slightly more positive to reach it. The refractory period allows the action potential to move in one direction down the cell. Because sodium channels that have already been active are in the refractory period, the sodium channels cannot reopen. Therefore, the action potential can only travel in one direction. During the absolute refractory period, a new action potential cannot occur. This is the period between the beginning of depolarization to the end of repolarization. The relative refractory period is during the time of hyperpolarization. During this time, an action potential can only occur if the stimulus is greater than the threshold. There are 2 types of channels in the nervous system: voltage-gated channels and ligand-gated channels. Voltage-gated channels open in response to a voltage. The sodium-potassium pump is an example of a voltage-gated channel. Ligand-gated channels open in response to a chemical or neurotransmitter, such as dopamine or serotonin. Ligand-gated channels can be found in the synapse and are used to propagate action potentials across synaptic clefts.
When a stimulus occurs, it creates an electrical impulse, and that travels down the presynaptic terminal and then releases calcium from a channel. The calcium then releases the vesicle, which contains the ligand. If there is enough power from the stimulus, the vesicle then goes across the synaptic cleft It releases the ligand into the ligand-gated ion channel. The ligand opens the channel, and the action potential travels into that axon and causes the release of calcium into that terminal, and the process happens again, neuron to neuron, allowing the action potential to travel throughout the brain.
Action potentials occur in a way similar to electricity flowing through a circuit. In this circuit, the stimulus is the switch. When the switch is flipped, the circuit is completed, allowing electricity to flow. When a stimulus occurs, it must reach threshold in order for an action potential to travel. When the stimulus occurs, or in this case, the switch is flipped, it starts a reaction in the neuron. Think of this as the body of the neuron, and these little wires are the dendrites. The action potential begins to travel down the axon. In this circuit, the axon is the wire in between each light bulb. The sodium-potassium pump that we discussed earlier is in the axon. At the end of the axon is what's called the synapse. Think of the synapse as the part where the wire ends, leading up to the light bulb. The thick green wrapping around the wire is the presynaptic terminal. The action potential causes a ligand-gated channel to open. A neurotransmitter combines with a receptor site, allowing the action potential to jump from neuron to neuron. This is represented by the light bulb. In a circuit, the wire is wrapped in a plastic covering so that the actual wire is not exposed. In this circuit, the coating around the wire is similar to the myelin in our nervous system. It keeps the electricity or message on the inside.
When you learn new things, your brain creates synaptic connections. And the more you do things and the better you get, the thicker and stronger these connections get. In a person with Alzheimer's, plaque builds up between nerves, causing synaptic connections to stop forming and breaking down ones that are already formed. In Alzheimer's, action potentials are unable to travel properly. One loses the ability to converse, communicate, and have social interactions. Alzheimer's occurs typically at an older age, and there is no specific time span. It is usually caused by environmental factors, but it can be genetic. Recent studies show that learning new things at an older age can help to prevent Alzheimer's.
Parkinson's is caused by action potentials dealing with dopamine misfiring. The nerve cells that produce dopamine die. The misfiring and low levels of dopamine affect voluntary muscle movement and cause tremors and spasms. While Parkinson's progresses slowly and is usually not fatal, it is life-altering and can greatly reduce mobility in average life.